to come and I was keen to come and present on a topic that was of great interest to me, because I'm passionate about music. I'm also very keen on music education. So I had the chance to come and present a paper that I had worked on while I was in college. And it was quite a good experience, to be honest. I was hoping to come and it was happening in Dallas, Texas. I was hoping to present in person, though the visa issue hindered that. So I had to present online. And I got quite a lot of useful feedback. And, you know, just that experience of interacting with academics at that level and having your ideas challenged at that level, it prepares me for what I hope will be a very successful academic career ahead. Because by the grace of God, I hope to go into postgraduate studies and research in the field of music education. So I would really urge, I don't know how much time I have to speak about this, but I would really urge you, whoever is able to take advantage of that opportunity. And the other thing I forgot to say is that I got to win a prize, money, because my paper won the 3rd position. And that was my first experience. So I would definitely take advantage of that opportunity, not just to win, but also to learn by having that constructive criticism and feedback. Generally, it doesn't have to be necessarily critical. Yeah, so I would encourage you also to take advantage of that opportunity. Yeah, I don't know how much time I have to speak, but I think I have summarized my experience, which was entirely pleasant. Thank you so much.
Asante sana. So are you planning to join us this year in person?
Yes, I am planning to do that. I would like to submit my abstract soon. I'm still working on several papers. Yes, but I think I'll have to present online again because of many commitments that I'll be having at around the same time in September, moving in between countries. Yeah, but as I said, that's definitely an opportunity I will take advantage of as many times as I possibly can.
Okay, about the award, how are we able to get it as students, or what did you do in the ukapata the award?
Yeah, so how I did it last year, Sylvester is also is in a much better position to answer that from an administrative position. But in my experience, of course, I submitted the paper before the deadline. You're able to see the deadline on the website. And then since I filled in that I'm a student, they asked me if I wanted to participate in the student competition beforehand, and I said yes. They sent an email, and that is just how it happened. So it was not like a very complicated process in that way. Yeah.
Asante sana. So yeah, the students, you have it. We are waiting for you to send your abstracts. I think there's a lot to benefit from. That's starting from networking and the way Mashari amesema, getting feedback on all the information that, yeah, on our articles, our research. So yes, tupatane Atlanta 8 to 9 September. And I think the deadline for abstract submission is in June for people in the US. And I think when you're Konyumbani or anywhere else apart from the US, it's in March. I saw that somewhere. Yeah, 1st of March for international submissions that require visas, and 1st June 2023 for everyone else. So we can have more questions later about that. For now, I'm happy that I've seen Professor Jerono, so I'm going to invite her to, and then we'll get started with our today's topic that's applied to graduate school, and then we can go back to any other discussion. Karibu sana, Professor.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you can stop sharing the screen, that would be better. We can see each other. Great. All right. Let's see. I thought I had my video. Okay. I was like, why is my video not on? How's everybody doing? Simufungua video tuonane. Yep, there you go. Yeah, that's nice. I literally just ran in. So I had a meeting that went so late at work. So thank you so much, Nancy, for holding on. And I would just like us to have a conversation, and I'm sharing this from experience on how to apply to grad school. I'm just gonna give you tips and then I'll let you ask any questions. And I'm gonna give examples I'm going to give from my experience as a department chair, as an advisor, where I was actually reviewing those, where you review those applications. Again, thank you, Nancy, for doing that. Thank you, everybody. And I hope to see all of you at KESID. Honestly, submit your abstract. If you have any questions, just 250 words, real simple, submit it. You can actually present as a group. We may have some scholarships for students who are presenting. We may be able to, again, you know, when we get money, we normally pay for the registration, and especially those who win, we reimburse your money. So go ahead and apply for that. Submit an abstract and let's meet. It's a great, great way to connect. It's a great way to network. So what we have done before is we've shared a link. I think we shared a document that was published by KEFA and KESA. So what that is, just giving you a guide. And before I proceed, let me ask, just by a show of hands, how many of you are applying to grad school? You can just click, how many of you are applying to grad school? No one? Yeah. Is anybody applying to grad? Okay, good. Okay, I see Joshua there. Okay, Joshua is there. Anybody else? I'm only talking to Joshua tonight. Okay, all right, Joshua.
We are recording, so better the information will reach other people.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. So for those who are applying to grad school, the first thing that you do is, of course, you want to do your research. You want to know what is it that you want to pursue. So do your research, look at the website, look at the programs that are offered, look at the faculty. Also, it's also good to look at the profiles of the faculty. Make sure there is something that you can identify with, some research or some work that you can identify, because graduate school is not easy. So you got to really like what you're getting into. You got to make sure you like there's something that you're going to enjoy, because when you go to grad school, either a master's or a PhD, this is your life. This is really your lifetime career. So pick what you like, identify an institution that you like, get your papers ready. The key thing is start applying early. Do not wait until the last minute. Most applications are normally due in February, March, especially if you want to be considered for assistantship. Assistantship means they pay for your tuition and they give you a little stipend. So apply early, because the first people who come in is first come, first served. Those who apply early are considered for financial funding. Normally that funding cycle ends in July. So by July, all our monies are dedicated, they're committed. So find the school, apply to something that you really like, apply early. Make sure you have all your transcripts, your official transcripts that they require, even those ones from Kenya. So if you have transcripts from Kenya, then you want to make sure you get those early, because they can really take a while to get through. Get all your official transcripts, submit them, and then the most important thing is your purpose, statement of purpose. Statement of purpose is really key. Take your time to write your statement. What is it that you want to study? Why, and why that institution? So that is very, very important. And be candid. Be candid. That's why it's important then to name some of the professors. You say, hey, like for example, so-and-so, this is my interest, is what I want to pursue. This is where I see myself in future. So that statement of purpose is very key. Because everybody has a transcript. Make sure you meet the minimum GPA requirements. So those are things we just check, do they meet the minimum requirements? In fact, what happens is when the applications come to the portal, the graduate school checks to make sure you meet the GPA requirement. They check to make sure that you've submitted all your transcript. They check to make sure that you've submitted your statement of purpose and recommendations. If you don't have any of those, they will not even forward the application to the department where we actually review. So what happens in most departments is we have a panel. So we will meet, we will review, we have a rubric, we'll review that. And the review is based on, do you have the minimum GPA required? Do you have the background, your statement of purpose, your recommendation letters? And then of course, did you apply on time? Because if you don't apply on time, then you miss the cut for financial support. When you also apply to those schools, those that require GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, whatever they require, make sure you submit those on time. So it's really, you really want to start preparing early. You know, those who are in first degree, you want to start thinking about application at the end of your third year, at the end of your junior, that's when you should be applying. Because sometimes it takes long, especially with transcripts, if you have to do GMAT, if you have to do TOEFL, and look at the minimum requirements. I know that most of them waived it after COVID, so most institutions waived the GMAT or GRE. So take advantage of those, especially at this time. This is a good time to get into those programs. And then also look at make sure that the university is accredited. Those who are coming from Kenya, if you're applying from Kenya, make sure the institution is accredited. And if you are not sure, talk to somebody, ask somebody to help you with that information. So make sure it's accredited by, it's a reputable and accredited institution, because the worst thing is you don't want to finish a degree and then you're told that program is not accredited. I've had people who went into chiropractor before, they graduated, and then as soon as they're getting ready to go to the job market, they were told, no, that institution was not accredited. So that means you've wasted all your time. Okay. And then after you apply, what is always good is after you apply, look at some of the professors. If you see some that you really like what they're doing, shoot them an email and say, hey, so-and-so, Dr. Gathua, I really like, you know, I've applied for graduate school. I really like what you're doing. I really like the area of study. I look forward to studying, you know, to doing research with you, or to look forward to being mentored by you. So when you express that interest early enough, when those panels meet, they're like, you know, I like this person. They actually went out of their way to reach out to me. So that shows that you're actually taking that initiative. So as you wait for that review, it doesn't hurt to email some of one or two professors, especially the ones that you really identified. And to be honest with you, truth be told, those ones who are funding, you can look at them if they have research funding, if you have projects, those are the ones that you want to make sure you reach out to, because we always have money that you're looking for assistance. So reach out to them, email them, and then, of course, as you wait for that, check your email. The worst thing is we are very good in communicating from graduate school. They will let you know, thank you so much for applying. You're missing this, you're missing this. So the beauty with the US schools is once you start the application process, they will send you frequent emails to say, hey, you're missing this, you're missing one transcript, you have not paid your fees. So just respond to those requests, because sometimes we think we've done it, but we forgot something. So go ahead and apply that. Also read that statement. I've seen people where they said, oh, I would like to go, they're applying to Indiana, and they said, oh, I'm really excited about Iowa. We're like, no, this is not Iowa. So if you're applying to different schools, which we encourage that, make sure you change your statement of purpose. Don't put, oh, I'm coming to Iowa, and you're applying to that. We've actually had people that we didn't even give them jobs because they put the wrong name on the application, especially for jobs. That is like, no, this is not, this is not. So read that statement. If we encourage that you apply to at least 5 schools, and then every time you go in there, of course, make sure you change your statement of purpose. Your CV is also very, very important. If they require it, make sure you update it. And like I said, when you write to your professors, if you write on the side and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I've applied to this institution, this is my resume. Sometimes it gets them interested. So when they go to vote for you, or when they go to vote for those who are, to identify those who need assistance, those who need assistantship, then they'll think about you. So from my experience, what happens is we get the names of the graduate students who've been accepted, who've met the requirements, the minimum requirements, and we get all those names. And then now, depending on the number of assistantship means that they pay for your tuition and they give you a living stipend, the money to support you. So for example, I think here in Indiana, the last time, I think the range of stipend is between $2,000 to $2,500. At least it's over $2,000 a month. That's a lot of money. You're getting a stipend. They've already paid your tuition and they're giving you $2,000 a month for your living expenses, over $2,000. So those students, we actually we look at them as a faculty, say, hey, so we send the email to the faculty and say, hey, we have the following students. Look through the list, see if there's any particular one who does research that is related to you based on the statement. So again, that if your statement is really clear, then I'm going to say, oh, wow, this person actually reached out to me. I'd like to work with them. So then you pick. So, yep. Is there anything else? So the main thing is, again, that statement of purpose, your recommendations, please. Oh, that's the other thing I almost forgot. Your recommendations, make sure you have people who know you very well. And before you submit somebody's name, you put somebody's name on a school, please reach out to them and let them know, hey, Dr. Gathua, I have put your name as a referee. I'm applying to this school. Send them your application, actually send them the purpose and send them your resume so that they can actually submit a very good letter, and give them time. We are very, very busy people. So give us time so that we can get enough time to write your application, to write your recommendation and to write a good recommendation for you. So if you don't tell me and I just get surprised, I'm like, I'm getting a request because I get a request, say, hey, so-and-so has applied for a school, for grad school, but they haven't even notified them. Most of them would not even, maybe it might even go to junk mail. So if I'm not expecting anything, then I'm not looking for it. But if I'm expecting something, then I will be on the lookout and say, hey, you said you applied for something, but I've not seen a request for a recommendation. So communicate. I will stop there so we can have questions. Let's keep it as a discussion. Ask any questions. What are some of your experiences that you've had when applying? We're here, several of us. I see Dr. Gathua is a professor here. I don't know who else is there. Even Nancy is most people are in grad school. I see Gilbert is here. So they can answer from their experiences. So it's your turn. Charles is here. So there's several of us. Just ask questions. We're here to help. We're here to support.
Any questions, you can type or just raise your hand and we will unmute you.
So as you think through your questions, the reason why we're telling you to go to conferences like KESID and present. So when we are reviewing and looking at those applications, especially for assistantships, you're looking for somebody who has done above and beyond. So if I see an applicant who has not gone to any conference, was not done anything, versus somebody who has actually gone to conferences, they've presented, they have leadership positions in organizations, they've published something, I'm gonna go for that person. So what we tell you to do right here, it is not little, it is, and this is actually a professional development course that you've attended. So you can also put it on your resume that you attended a session on how to apply to grad school. So what that means is you're actually interested and you're preparing you're thinking about your future. So put this in your resume. Say, hey, I attended a professional development workshop on applying to grad school. You know, that tells a lot versus somebody who has not done anything.
I'll jump in and say, I'm going to add to what Prof has just said right now about conferences. Into my PhD program at the University of Iowa. By the way, I'm talking from Iowa City, Iowa. The coordinator of the program saw me present a poster when I was doing my master's. So get involved, be seen. And even as you attend a conference as KESA, network and let your next step be known to the professors who are there. Right now, the way it's set up, right now, I don't have any assistantships to give at Grand Canyon University. But because of my fellow professors like Professor Jerono, I will work with her and know what is in Indiana and other professors. So network and let the professors you're meeting in your area, even if I'm not in your area, I'm a counselor educator, I'm in counseling. But I do know through Professor Jerono, I know what's going on in sports. So if I don't know, I'm going to ask. So take advantage of that. The other thing she has said is, what have you done between when you did your bachelor's? And what have you been doing? I realized how important it was when I was applying to come to grad school to the University of Northern Iowa. And they were asking all these questions, and then it gave me time to reflect and see, oh, I've been doing so much, especially volunteering. She talked about, what else do you do? I put it all down. It counted because a lot of graduate school, you're training to be a professional. And in between your bachelor's and going to grad school, some will want 1 year or 2 years of work experience. So when I put together everything I'd done, I said, oh my God. So it counted even what I was doing in church and working with the youth. And especially because I was applying to go for a master's in school counseling. And here I am, all my time in Kenya was spent working with youth. So put down all those things, they count. And even at undergrad level, those who are undergraduates, volunteer for any opportunity. It is going to count. And in relation to all this, because these sessions of ours are very important, especially for those who are aspiring to come to school in Kenya. If we are able to work a time that is also good for Kenya, East African time, that is very good, because I remember, I think it's Charles, he used to attend our meetings, and right now, Kenya right now, it's 4:32 a.m. So if we are able to make the time more doable, which means having to start a bit later for some of us sitting in Iowa, that would be good. And for now, I'm going to stop there, but thank you very much. I said, even if it's not in my area, part of what I teach counselors is career counseling, career development counseling. So this is part of my work. So talk to us. And right now we also have WhatsApp. We have emails. So talk to me, even if I may not be specific about what you're asking for. Right now I had a student, I was being asked by somebody in Kenya, how they go about applying for engineering. One of the things that I told them is join KESID. That one is going to be, especially with other peers, you're going to get a lot, come to our meetings, and that way they get to know, we help each other, because and at the same time, it's quite a while since I graduated, so some things may have changed, but at the same time, a lot of them do not change. So those are, and by the way, when you're people are applying to grad school, you also have to remember it's professional level. So you are transitioning, and because some programs interview, others do not interview. Others, like mine to the University of Northern Iowa, for a whole semester, you're put there for one semester provisionally. I have to prove myself whether I am really fit to be a counselor. So remember to carry yourself from the time you decide you're going to graduate school. Behave professionally. Even when Professor Jerono and other professors, and a lot of you who are here in grad school, even when we do a Zoom meeting, we try as much as we can to be professional anytime, and especially nowadays with cameras, anytime when you're making contact with people, behave like a professional. Even when we are relaxing, when we go for conferences, because sometimes we'll have even alcoholic drinks, always remember to be professional. Don't be the person who gets the most drunk. Yet you're drunk and we are trying to talk about how you're going to apply for a school. Sometimes you even fail yourself before you begin. So I'll stop there. Like I always say, I usually have a lot of words coming out of me. I'll stop there.
That is okay. That is okay. Yep. Questions. We're here to answer your questions. I see Dr. Yebei is here. So yeah, yeah. Good to see you, Doctor. I just got back from work, so he knows how busy we stay.
Yeah, I just got back from Indianapolis also. So
Yeah.
Sorry for being late.
No, that's okay. That's okay. At least we're trying.
We have one question by Joshua. Joshua,
Okay. That is
can you talk about how to connect with professors and actually get responses?
that is
wow, touché.
Listen, that is a very good, and I'm going to let my colleagues speak. We are very busy buddies. We are very busy. So what you need to do is, the first is the way you address people. You know, I had my friend from, I don't want to say where he came from, but his name was Professor John somebody. So this student would write an email and say, hey, John. He'll be like, wait a minute, you call me John? I don't even know you. You're not my age mate. So the way you address people on that, the way you address, so again, write your message well, craft it very well, put the title, because we get a lot of email. Put a title, a good title on your for your message. And then be very respectful. Again, attach your resume or whatever, but just say, hey, you know, be very polite the way you respond. You know, there's some emails that I get and I just throw it away in junk. But there's some emails that I'm like, oh, wow, that is a very interested student. So be the way you write your emails, especially if you're introducing yourself to somebody that you do not know, then you have to be very, very professional. Now, if you know your professors, the people that you've been with, it also depends on the relationship. Truth be told, there's some students that I've had, I'm like, don't you ever write back to me again, I'm done with you. So be good to your professors. So build those relationships. It's an investment. It is a huge investment. So build those relationships along the way. Show your interest, the way you behave in class, the way you help in projects and things like that. So there are people that they would write a letter to me, a request to me, I will stop everything and write a recommendation. But there's some people that I said, I'm sorry, I really don't know you and I do not want to lie on a recommendation letter. So I'll prefer that you get somebody who really knows you, who understands your work ethics. Yeah, so it's the way you it's the way you, and just be persistent, you know, be respectful, and the title should be very clear. Otherwise, sometimes we don't ignore that on purpose, but it's the way the way you word it can make it go to junk mail. I'll let Dr. Yebei and anybody else address that. How do you, Sir Joshua, is it your former professors or the new people that you're, it really depends on who you're addressing, but I hope that is helpful. I'll let my colleagues say something about that.
One of the things, I don't know, I can't see you, Sir Joshua, on my screen, maybe on the second page. But one thing, I'm just going to tell you hongera, because as you ask the question, how do you get responses from professors? Sometime when you were graduating, I think that was it last year or the year before, you offered to connect Kenyan nurses, those who would want to work in the US. And I have sent a lot of people your way, and you have been very good in following up. So unlike maybe the professors you might have been mentioning, for some reason you didn't get responses. And what was the other thing I wanted to add to what Professor Jerono has said? When you're writing, and this is any professional writing you're doing, be specific and to the point. Do not be like me when I'm in my village of Nyeri, where I grew up. If I'm greeting you, I'm going to ask you even about your cows and your goats. So be very specific and to the point. And then the other thing, depending on the, for example, we sometimes have cases we are helping with Professor Jerono, and sometimes the person we are working with, they may have sent me something, and even just to check whether it went to the junk mail, sometimes somebody will send us a second reminder, please don't send a third one, because the professor, especially because some things are voluntary, so the professors have to be doing, first of all, what they are employed to do. The other one is, it's still service, it's still part of our job. So it may not be a priority, or it went to junk mail. So but I'm admiring this person, because what they're doing, they sort of team tag us, me and Professor Jerono. So if they've asked us both for recommendations. So they will write to me and say, hey, I'm not very sure, Prof is very, very busy. So I'm not sure whether she got my email, or it just got lost somewhere, because sometimes that may be that way, because sometimes I am able, if heaven help, it doesn't ever happen that way. I've been known to text Prof at 3 a.m. because our relationship allows for that. And then also it will depend on what time zone she's in. If she's in Kenya and I'm texting her right now, it's going to 5 a.m. So you can use also that to check. You can use another fellow professor, or even another, for example, somebody like Sylvester, because we've known each other now, and somebody like Gilbert for a bit of time, or somebody like student Kelvin. So depending on the relationship, you are able to email me maybe twice or thrice without appearing to nag or to badger. And when you get to that point, you are really now being counterproductive for yourself. So sometimes it kind of sounds a bit political or some sort of kissing up, but that's not really how it is. It's still working on your being seen, because you have to work on that. And some of these things are quite competitive, and I'll touch on that. So when we are talking about assistantships and help, we also have to be real. So sometimes you have a passion, you have an interest in some areas, but sadly, I'm in the area of social sciences and sometimes funding. And when you're an international student, sometimes it's not always that obvious. So sometimes I have had to tell the people, the path I took, I left Kenya with nothing. I decided, like Kenyans say in Kenyanese, nitaenda nikijua nikiendanga. And it worked for me. So, and one of the things is ignorance is bliss that time, because sometimes some things you know and they scare you off. So in some of the fields that you choose to pursue, I have a passion for counseling. Unfortunately, being an international student, I didn't land in a school where automatically I got in there. I had to fight for every assistantship that I had. So depending on the schools, and that's why when you talk to people who've been ahead, right now, I think I've just been, somebody messaged that there's somebody interested in mental health counseling. We'll talk aside, but right now, I can say that if that person goes to the University of Northern Illinois, that one, they will, by the time they get in, they will have an assistantship. But if for counseling, you come to my where I graduated from, University of Northern Iowa, for counseling, you're going to, for a master's, you're going to fight, you're almost not going to get it unless if we use the memorandum of understanding that Professor Mogenda did with the University of Iowa. So, but the person who asked that question, tutaongea nyuma ya tent, more on that and in that area. So, because I will talk about that. And when I say this, I'm not wanting to scare about social sciences. With STEM, a lot of times they're even looking for you to even give you money to go to school versus some of our programs. And that's where it becomes good to network with people who are ahead of you if you're planning to go to grad school, those who've walked that path, because even as professors, we will also ask other students to help us recruit. So, and other professors. I'll stop there because I'm feeling as if I'm getting back to talking in circles.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to invite Dr. Philomen, and I saw Dr. Ndombere too. Yeah, Indiana, we are full in the house, just to share your thoughts and tell us what you do. Let me tell you the story of the power of KESID before Dr. Yebei speaks.
Okay.
And somebody asked that. I was recruited through LinkedIn. Somebody asked about LinkedIn. I was not looking for this job in Indiana. I was happy in North Carolina. People look at your activities, and I'll come back to that later. So I was just doing my thing on LinkedIn, and the dean and the people of Indiana saw my LinkedIn, and they reached out to me, and they contacted me, and they called. They actually sent me boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of gifts. I was guilted into applying for the position, if you know what that means. So once I applied for the position, because they had sent me so many gifts that I felt so guilty, I said, let me put these applications so they can stop. So I put the application, and after I applied, I reached out to Sylvester McCoby. I said, "Hey, Sylvester, tell me about IU." So he said, well, I'm a student, but I know somebody who works in administration, and that is Dr. Yebei. So Dr. Yebei convinced me, and he's been the greatest gift in my life. It's been the greatest support. If it wasn't for Yebei and Sylvester, I would not have come to Indiana. So the power of networking is very powerful. Dr. Yebei, the floor is yours.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, Dr. Jerono. You're too kind. You give me too much credit. I don't think I deserve that much, but we are happy to have you at IU. I think we are lucky to have you in Indiana, and particularly for me, I have a sister now very close by. We can drink some mursik together, we can talk and cook some ugali, and we can share. So I'm happy to have you in Indiana. So I did not go the faculty route, and I'll only talk from an administration standpoint. Even though I have a PhD in higher education administration, my plan was a different trajectory. I did not go the faculty route. So in response to Sir Joshua's Rotich's question about contacting professors, I'll only add a couple of things in addition to what advice you've received so far. One is, I think it's hard to cold call or just send people emails and expect a response. So if you're leading your email with someone you haven't met before, you have to contextualize. I got your name from X. So say who you are and how you're connected to that person. That's always important. The next thing is keep it brief. Why are you emailing? So that has to set up the situation. Why are you sending the email? And you always have to close with what do you want? So I receive many emails where I get a long story and I'm having to dig through to find out what is it exactly that this person wants. So you have to end the email with what exactly it is that you are asking about. And then, as they've mentioned, we are busy. We have a lot of emails and things going on and meetings, and we might not respond immediately. I think one follow-up is sufficient. And if you don't hear back after 2, then maybe that's a silent way of telling you, try a different route or try someone else. At that point, it might be difficult, or give it time. Maybe it's just not the right time. I hope that answered your question. I'm happy to help whichever way I can. As Jerono said, I'm in administration here in Indiana. I'm an assistant vice president for administration. I oversee financials and administration for all our regional campuses, as well as all the online operation at IU falls under my area. And, we're a big institution. IU has a $4 billion budget. And so we sort of walk through quite a bit of significant dollars flowing through the institution. So if anybody has any interest in talking about higher education administration or sort of anything in that regard, I'm happy to help. So asanteni.
So do you have some assistants, graduate assistants in your office?
No, not directly. We used to have a few, but those are mostly for research-based projects. So one example might be if we apply for a grant that has funding for graduate students, then we might have graduate assistants. Most of those would be tied to research. So one example I can give is the Lilly endowment here in Indianapolis. They are the ones that manufacture a lot of insulin. We occasionally get big grants from them, and if we have assistantships, they would fall underneath sort of that project, but they have to sit in academic schools, right? We are not an academic school, we are administrative. So they would either sit in public health or the School of Education or sociology. So the assistantships would be indirect, not directly underneath my office.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if Makobi told you, but Makobi is a graduate assistant to the president of IU. So you get some very good experiences. I can't even get close to the president, but Makobi is right there with us. So sometimes you get very good and rewarding experiences. And yes, Dr. Ndombere.
Yes, Professor Jerono, I'm right here. I'm in Kenya enjoying the good weather in Kenya right now.
What? That's nice of you. Well, introduce yourself and tell them what you do, because I also like them too.
All right, so yeah, I'm Dr. Ndombere. I'm a research scientist at LabCo Drug Development in Indianapolis. So that's what I do. My background is biochemistry, or more specifically, it has got to do with drug development affairs, anything to do with the research that involves development of new drugs. So I went to Wayne State University in Michigan, and maybe pertinent to what we are talking about, although I didn't get the question clearly, I can just add a few things. One of which is when you talk of a letter, a recommendation letter, other than being precise and brief to the point, you also need to do the timing. What time are you sending the letter to the recommender? There are a few strategies that have worked in the past. For example, I do send all my letters, on Sunday night, so that is the first email that pops up in the morning, so that when Professor Yebei or Professor Jerono or Professor Wangui gets to the office, it's among the top 10 emails. So that's a very good strategy that has worked for me in the past. So timing is key because, as Professor Yebei pointed out, there are numerous emails that we do find. And quite frankly, even for me, I do find so many emails, and I just have to decide which ones to read first. But obviously, if it is the very first email, then you have no choice, you'll have to read it. So that's one strategy that has worked for me pretty much all the time. Secondly, making follow-ups, as has already been pointed out, is fundamental in making sure that you're following up really what you are really interested in. So try to make follow-ups. And obviously, thirdly, you need to have contacted someone whom you know will definitely be there when you need that person. Sometimes I do also, that's a fourth strategy, I do write a recommendation letter to myself and email that one to the professor and say that this is how I'd want it to look like. You are free to edit or to throw away the letter altogether and write a new one. But I find it most of the times that if you do so, the professor is much obliged pretty much to follow your own recommendation letter and just sign it off. So it's important for you to have a recommendation letter to yourself as if it has been written by a professor or another recommender to save them time and also to be able to kind of, appeal to them, pretty much in terms of what you really want. And so those are some of the strategies that have worked for me. And for many people, I've tried to help as well get to graduate school and even to positions of various positions, either in company or academia. So that's what I can add. And of course, finally, if you're on this call, you can always also reach out to me. I work in industry. I also work so much with students as well. And so I always have a bunch of letters and other pieces of advice I can always give. So you're free to reach out to me as well in case you need any help. And then, of course, the very last thing, I'm very happy that Indiana is strongly represented in this meeting. Professor Jerono, Professor Yebei, there is a mention of Sylvester. And I woke up pretty early back home in Kenya and I said I must join the call just to add to the Indiana kitty. So thanks very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Indiana in the house. Ooh. So you see, you know why? You see why you have to come to Indiana now. Join the family in Indiana. We're recruiting, seriously.
Just wanted to say a big thank you for the responses. And, when I graduated, I really wanted to graduate and go to PhD immediately. But so I applied to quite a number of schools. I even applied to Harvard. But one of the challenges was that to get that response, because I also didn't want to go to a lab where I don't know what is going on in the lab. I don't know who is the professor. So I wanted to build that relationship first before even going to get into the PhD program. Yeah, but one more thing which I just wanted to ask, because currently I'm having a kind of wondering what I should do, because I'm running about 11 companies currently. And I find it that I'm so passionate with business. I love helping people. I'm really into it. But also actually one of the companies, I'm expecting to have like 10,000 employees in the near future. So I'm like, to really manage all that kind of people and to do business very well, I'd want to have a PhD probably in leadership or business management. But my background is in biology. I'm a biologist and I'm actually teaching biology as well currently. So I'm wondering how should I choose, on these two perspectives?
I'll say something little, because you mentioned business and you mentioned managing companies, and it's always good to follow your passion, right? Because if you follow your passion, it's not work anymore, because it's something that's deeper and has more meaning than just kazi. It's not something you're just putting food on the table. There's more meaning behind it, and you stand a better chance of success. Find what you love, and then you can call that work. And for you, it sounds like if it's business or starting business, of course, you have to understand the risk of going into business and all that it entails. You take on a lot, but you know, people have been very successful in that front. I would recommend, depending on the types of businesses you're starting, whether they are in non-profit type work or whether they are educational institutions, consider MPA or a Master's in Public Administration, because some of those would give you both sides of it, right? You know, non-profit management, but you'll also get a sense of basic accounting or managing, you know, financials, managing the organization. You know, human resource components would be thrown in there as well. So look at programs that offer, you know, Masters in Public Administration or entrepreneurship. Might be opportunities to give you a sense of what you'd like. And, you know, what I would start with is enroll in this massive open online courses, because there are courses out there that are free, offered by, you know, MIT and Harvard, and they're all free. I would register in those and kind of get a good feel for the field, because ultimately, if you have a big company, you're not the one that will be doing the books, right? You'll hire people to be the bookkeepers. So, but you need to have a good grasp of what you're getting into. So anyway, that's just a little bit of what I can share just off the top without knowing a lot of information on what you're doing.
Yes, Yebei, that is good information. That is great. Sir Johnson, I know you are doing something that is would be really beneficial to people of Kenya with the nursing licensure, getting their NC. I can't talk, but I know what you're doing. So if, like Yebei said, if that is what you're interested in, there are two ways. You can also go to school part-time. You really need to figure out what you want. But if you're doing good in business, focus on business, and you can go to school part-time. Most graduate schools anyway are in the evening. So take a class in the evening, you know, pole, and then by the time you get to where your business can actually sustain itself, that they don't need you, then you can always go back and finish. There's also a lot of dual degree programs. Like I know my daughter took a dual degree program in MBA and MIS. They also have a dual degree in MBA and healthcare management. So there are a lot of different approaches out there. But of course, business, you can't beat that. So build your business as you go to school part-time. And then when you're ready, you can just go back and finish. Yebei says that there's a lot of free programs. I shared one with the Eastern European Business University. They've actually given me 1,000 scholarships. And if those ones are on, then they'll give me more. They're renewable every year. Those are free courses. Register. As long as you register by May 16th, you only need to pay a commitment fee of $21 US dollars. Who cannot afford that? And those who are in Kenya, you pay 2,670 something Kenya shillings. And you take your course for the semester. There's one on project management. Actually, I'm actually going to take a course on women leadership, because you can always retool. So there are a lot of opportunities out there that we're sharing, that even when it comes to that application for your grad school, you're going to stand out because you finished your degree, but you're taking a lot of extra things. You've actually gone out of your way you've taken that initiative to take some extra courses, just like our brothers and sisters who are waking up in Kenya. That speaks volume. People see those things do not go unnoticed. So people notice the sacrifice and your determination. So build, when I was growing up or when I was in undergrad, they always say, build a mobile resume. Build a resume that if I lose my job here, I can go anywhere. You can go anywhere. So build a mobile resume. Think about things that you do every day. Is that something that you can put on your resume? If it is yes, go for it. If it's not, then do something else. So I always think about that. What I'm doing, is that something that will add value to my career? So think that, build your mobile resume every day, add something to that, and eventually it will pay off. Yes.
Yeah, I might also add a few points. So certainly, I want to pick up from what Professor Yebei said. Obviously, you'll need to work with people. I mean, you'll have to trust people. So I think you need to really understand that however high you go, or however how many employees you have, definitely you need to find a way by which you are able to manage the people, right? So any course in that regard is key. And obviously, Professor Jerono has mentioned a few. MBA is a very good option as well. And of course, ongoing learning is going to be fundamental in your success. I also want to suggest management information systems. Currently we manage a lot through technology. So right now, for example, the company I work for, it's in 60 countries. There are over 70,000 employees, but they rely so much on management information systems, where you were able to coordinate everything from across the globe. So you need to have an idea of some of the current, technologies that are available to be able to manage such a large caliber of people and such, a diverse number of companies, as you put it. And so that's another way, another thing I can suggest to you. I also believe we also have something like health institutions administration, something like that, that is also offered. And so that is also a key. Even in biology, I figure that probably some of the technologies or some of the things you do in your companies are related to maybe biology or health. And so that can also really help, quite indeed. But I think the bottom line, as Jerono puts it, is ongoing learning. To be a leader, you really have to be adaptable to both the people, the environment, and the technologies. And obviously the Elon Musks, didn't school that much. We know some of the greatest, business leaders didn't really school that much. So I don't think you need to belabor yourself struggling to find a course that you really have to learn, because there's no single course that's going to offer a solution to the entire vision that you really have, because it's going to involve innovation as well. Success in business involves, ongoing innovation. And so maybe those are my thoughts that I can add on to what you really asked, in this regard. Thanks.
Jackson, I just shared, for example, what we have, PhD programs we have in my department in the School of Public Health, and Yebei is a graduate in the School of Public Health. We have a PhD with a major in biostatistics, environmental health, epidemiology, health behavior, human performance, leisure behavior, nutrition. That's just in one department alone. So then we have doctoral minors. So you can look at those again and, apply to Indeed. The graduate program director is next door to me, so I just whisper and knock on her door. I say, hey, did you get an application from Joshua? I'll just knock on her door and say, hey, application, you may pick up my bado.
Yeah. Masharia said he had a question to ask.
Yeah. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, it's a privilege to interact with all of you. Good evening. So I am wondering about, because I want to advance my education at a postgraduate level, and I'm finishing my undergrad next year. Sometimes you don't find a professor within a department who does something that you're specifically interested in. I'll give you an example. The dissertation topic that I'm working on, which I'll start working on in September, it's around music education for learners with special needs. I don't have a professor within my department who has specialized in that, and it's a big university, a Brussels group university within the same league with Oxford, and there are like 20 universities in that group. So I'm just imagining at a postgraduate level, if I wanted to do something even more specific, sometimes you may not find someone who does that exactly. And I was wondering how you should go about finding the right school in that way, because the supervisor that you get can either make your experience a pleasant one, or, because at a postgraduate level, you want to advance something that you're really interested in, and you need that support as well. Yeah, so I'm wondering what
advice you may have around finding the right supervisor, finding the right school that has people that can support you, even if they have not specifically done what you're interested in. I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
So are you in Kenya now, or where are you?
No, I'm in the UK. I'm a student at the University of Nottingham, and I'm graduating next year. That's when I finish my undergrad.
Okay. So, and you want to do, is it disabilities?
Yeah, okay. Music education. I still have very broad interests, but I gave a specific example of what I will be doing, the dissertation I'll be doing for my undergrad. It will be around music education for learners with special needs. Yes.
So that, you know Makobi, right?
Yes, yes.
You're the one who presented last year. Now I know you. Good job, and you won an award. And we hope to see you physically this time in Atlanta. So what happens is, Macharia, is in some cases you may not, but there's always people out there. You may not, but also if you don't find somebody who is very interested in that, you can start that field. That is why we as professors, we are required to publish, because we need to add on new knowledge. That's why even when you do your dissertation, they say, what is your topic? Why are you doing this topic? Are you adding any value? Are you filling any gaps? So this field of education is very broad. We're always looking for people to fill those gaps. So that is actually a good problem. So if you have good grades, that's why we said, if you have good grades, if you have submitted a good application with a good statement of purpose, your good recommendations, people welcome that. I'm like, wow, this is a new field. So I would be excited to actually work with a student in that field. And then once you get into the program, they will help you. So the key thing with that is, because Indiana University is the best for that. You can't go wrong with that, right? Right, Sylvester, I'll let you speak, Sylvester, but that's a very good problem. Once you get in there, we're always looking for new ideas and new knowledge and new innovation. So that's a great field.
I want to chime in on that, Macharia. And by the way, thank you for your presentation with Sylvester. Thank you for giving me an opportunity for pre-game dancing before the real dancing started on Saturday. Thank you. And that's also for people who didn't go to Dallas. Please join us in Atlanta, because we just don't work. We work hard, but we play hard too, some of us. I'm speaking for myself right now. That being said, Macharia, you're on the European system and the Kenyan system, and now you're talking to the American system. So just belaboring the point with what Prof said, you don't have to worry about getting the supervisor before. In the US, the supervisor comes after, versus the Canadian or the European or the Kenyan system, where you first of all look for a supervisor. Once you get in, even if you come to I keep talking about the University of Iowa, because physically that's where I'm placed, and I graduated from my grad school. I did all of them in Iowa. So the University of Iowa, the stipend, they're beaten by Indiana, but they're also pretty good. One of the Kenyans who just graduated, I said, wow, they are a single guy and they're getting $1,900 and all their tuition is paid. And so we do that too. And they've got a good stipend. And I also talk about them because I have good connections there. So, and also Kenya, because Professor, what's her name? Professor Mogenda just did an IMU to bring over students here. And the ambassador for that is actually our own KESID member, what's his name? Franklin Matanji. So, and we have a good, Macharia, they have a good disability program, and then a music program. So you can put all those together. I'm really pigaring Yebei for the University of Iowa. And they don't pay me, by the way. I'm an alumni, but I benefited. Remember I told you, in my pocket when I came to Iowa, I had only $700. When I say that, people say I had a lot of money. And I got my education, and 4 of my children from them. So I'm a risk taker. So Macharia, when I say, don't worry, the main point I'm saying with all these many words is that the US system get in, and I'm talking about the schools that I know. There could be others that are on the European system, get in, and the supervisors will have you. I always do my research, mostly it's Kenya and about immigrants. And a lot of the people that I'll work with, or even my supervisors, it's not their area, but they can be outsourced. For example, if you're doing something, it's sounding like music therapy and disability, which is, some of us can be outsourced as content experts. So yeah, I'll stop there.
And by the way, none of us is paid to do this work. We're just doing it because we see opportunities that we think our people can benefit from. So it is all sacrifice and volunteer.
Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we are not being paid. And remember, professors, we work all the time, 24/7. So Yebei, you talked about passion. So we are passionate. That is what, because some people wonder, why do you even punish yourself that way? And no, it's not punishment. It's passion.
Yeah, so I might add a little bit. So Macharia, I think what you're trying to ask is, maybe on your side as well. I think that the whole idea here is you have to find a supervisor who's, doing what is close to what you want, even if it's a very new area. I mean, you have to find somebody who's very close to what you really want, because the bottom line is, certainly you can't be able to create your own grad school, to be a bit blunt. You just have to find somebody. And I really don't believe there's an area that that is so new that you can't really that you can have difficulty finding somebody. There are lots of expertise the world over, and so if you do your homework, you should be able to find a supervisor who's really taking something close to what you do. And then secondly, I also wanted to really just be a little bit blunt and say that grad school is not a walk in the park. It's going to be painful at some point. And so you don't just have to believe that you'll get a supervisor and things will be all that smooth all through. So it's so difficult, really, in my opinion, to find somebody who is an area you want. Things are going to be so easy. You're going to get a very high stipend and so on and so forth. So it's a whole big package of what constitutes grad school. And to a great extent, I know you do know that. The point I'm just making is just one, that since you don't have full control of what is going on, is going to happen in the school you'll join, then at some point you just have to find a way to reach your goal, minus some of the things you really wanted. And so I also have to add that even the schools we went to, when we talk about Iowa, when I talk about, say, Wayne State that I went to, some of these schools we got in there not knowing exactly the kind of research you are going to undertake. So you have an idea, yes, of what you want, but you get in there and there are so many things you are exposed to, and eventually you find a clear path. So as much as you may be having something in your mind right now of what you want to do in grad school, you may get into grad school and you specialize or move into an area that's absolutely even more novel or more new than you think. Not to mention what I've already said, that the end goal is what is important and not necessarily the supervisor, so to speak. I have a case of somebody who had 3 supervisors by the time they graduated. The first supervisor moved his lab from the US to the UK, and he couldn't move to the UK. And then secondly, the second supervisor was actually fired over some malpractice. And the student couldn't, what could the student do? He had to find another supervisor. So he took 8 years to do his PhD. He was Kenyan, I know him. I can even link you up to him to provide you the advice, because the very first day he came, he was so much, feeling like he knows his supervisor. And so the point here is that we really don't know what we are going to meet in grad school. I also know of so many people who have switched supervisors along the way because they couldn't just cope, either with the work, the research, or simply the supervisor, the mentor-mentee relationship. So it's not meant to scare you, but what I'm saying is that get in there, determined like any other Kenyan that you're gonna reach the end and it will always work out. And I must finish by saying, Professor Wangui, $700 was so much money. I came with $50 and I bought a calling card to call back home that I've arrived in the US. So I got into grad school with $0. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ndombere, for entertaining me. Although you are talking, yes, grad school is serious. And my Kenyan mentee who graduated in 2020, he said, I'm not PhDing because a lot of the people I know, he used not a very good word. He said, I've gone crazy. But I want to say, especially during COVID, we did deal with a lot of international students who were suicidal, and I'm glad we didn't lose any. And I'm specific to the University of Iowa because that's where I am and that's the youth that I serve, the international students. And because remember when there was lockdown, we locked down and then there were no flights going out. And the university, and I say this on my platforms when I'm fighting social justice, especially for students. The students went for spring break and then they didn't come back until when? But so the dorms were closed. Our Kenyan students and other international students who are living in the dorms, they didn't have anywhere to go. And that's about the time when KESID did a lot of work for a lot of our international students. We did not have that here. So they couldn't go home and they didn't have dorms. And so it was a very tough time. Those are just some of the problems. And I'm mentioning this in relation to grad school because the bigger number I was dealing with and the majority of them were male. So in addition to having to continue with their programs, they were also stranded with nowhere to go. And as trying to, the African community, trying to absorb them. And then my son is still an international student, my baby number 4. So he was telling me, actually just now, just this year, it's when they're being offered the help that the University of Iowa should have given them. It's right now the money that is coming. And they were given, I think he was given $1,400. So he is lucky he has a family. But because of thinking that, and one time I was an international student, that is why we had to help them. So back to the point, Dr. Ndombere, you are saying grad school, it is tough. And then you touched on some of the things that happen with the supervisors along the way. So back to Macharia, you could even be guaranteed of somebody who's going to be your supervisor in your research and your advisor in your curriculum. But things change along the way. And Dr. Ndombere, some of them are so real, but they are hilarious. So you said somebody had 3 supervisors. Sometimes they fight, yep. Sometimes they do that. And then sometimes even the supervisor dies. And then you are mourning, yes, it's sad they died, but at the same time, your curriculum still has to go on. So all those things do happen, and we've seen them in Iowa. And yeah, it is tough, and which brings me back to my profession. That is why when I come to KESID, I always say, usikimie, do not struggle, because do not shut up, the struggle is real. So talk to somebody, reach out. And then even if when you come to me, I'm not your counselor, I am going to connect you to somebody if you're not already connected, and remind you that your institution, you've actually paid for mental health. So please use that. And if it comes to that, I always say, ongea na mimi nyuma ya tent, and then we talk about those things, because the struggle is really real. Yeah, and something else I wanted to address to Joshua, or to Sir Joshua and Macharia. Dr. Ndombere, you're saying you don't have your own university where things are going to be specific to your program, but the University of Iowa, that you reminded me, they do allow students who are, I don't know whether at master's level, but I do know at PhD level, you're allowed to make your own curriculum. You can actually come up with sometimes the people may not really be but you talk about those because the process of getting to grad school, you're having conversations with your program. So as you're having those conversations, explain what exactly you're wanting, and you're actually allowed to put it together. And even sometimes if there is no graduate assistantship or teaching assistantship, they also allow you to develop your own. For example, when we were starting to teach trauma, I remember one of my peers, when they couldn't get a stipend, they said, right now we are needing trauma-informed counseling. And then the education college, they're like College of Education, they're like, what's in heaven is that? He said, I'm going to make a class. And then she was told, even makes 10 students, you're good to go, and we'll pay you for that. So there's some schools that you can work with, and you can tailor your own PhD curriculum. I know for sure the University of Iowa allows that. I know 2 of my peers did that. And then you can even create something to be paid a stipend for. So be risky and go out there, and yeah, and come with even less money than Wangui, the $700 like Dr. Ndombere. Yeah.
Thank you. That information is very helpful. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm going to add something. I recently learned that for chemistry or STEM fields, also we have funding from like National Science Foundation that you can apply as graduate student, but you have to apply early in your program, like before you do your candidacy, that is probably in second year, and you can get funded. So some of this information we really miss because we don't know, but when you interact with other people that have done the same, we now learn about it. So there's funding, and that one you can actually structure your own project alongside your professors. It doesn't have, so if you have a different project and you get the funding, you are free to go ahead, but with your advisor's supervision. So that can also happen.
Thank you. It's funny because Indiana is leading, and I see Nancy Rotich, I see Sir Joshua Rotich, I see Rotich. We're not related, it's just a coincidence. But they are my brothers and sisters. I know that was like Rotich. But Sir Joshua was one of the best teachers at Alliance High School. He'll tell you later on why he was called Sir Joshua. I think the girls named him Sir Joshua. But from my experience, you shared something. I am one person who had to change advisors at my PhD level, because we're just having a lot of issues with my advisor. I got sick and I could not, actually my child was in hospital and she had to go through surgery, and I missed assignments. And when I came out, she gave me an F. So I tried to appeal, but what they told me was, it's actually, if you appeal, chances are that she's going to give you a bad grade. And I'm not going to go into the details. There are a lot of interesting things behind there, which was not being recorded. But so they said it was easier for you to explain an F than to explain a C, because a C looks like you failed. But when you see an F, they're like, wait, what happened here? So I actually ended up just sticking with that F in my transcript and changing my advisor. But later on, it did not become a problem, because I said, well, there was a situation here. I missed a semester. I missed part of the class because I had a medical emergency, and the professor did not want to give me an opportunity to finish the missed assignments. So things happen. Again, the idea is just talking to people. And like Nancy said, once you get to the institution, please be involved. Talk to your advisors, talk to your professors. There's a lot of money there. There's a lot of opportunities there on the campus. There was a question on the chat that I don't know, is it June or Jean? Jean asked, what do you do if you've been out of school for over a year? That is not a problem. It's actually even advised. It's best because what that means is you've been out of school for a year or more than that, and you want to go back to grad school. I would even prefer somebody, those are good because what that means is you know exactly what you're doing and you know why you're coming to school. So there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to make sure that during that 1 year, you were either working or you were doing something, but don't just be idle. Because if there is a gap, you never want to leave a gap in your career. So for that 1 year, if you're not able to get a job or if you're not taking do something. So as long as you show that there's no gap. So during that 1 year, you can again do your job, you can do an unpaid internship, you can volunteer. You can take, for those of us who are in Kenya who didn't know how to use computer, I took a lot of computer classes that you can type. Take some courses that are within your career path. So if you want to go, depending on where so do something that is adding, like I said, build your resume, building that mobile resume as you move along. So even if you're taking a break, make sure that break is productive, that you're doing something that is meaningful. Volunteer, take classes, help somebody, go to a community center. There's a lot of things that you can do. So just don't leave a big gap in your resume that you have to explain. That's easy or that's difficult to explain.
I want to say, now that we are talking of gaps, most of us here are international students and potentials. If you're an international student, the gaps are already taken care of, because if you're a student and you still have to maintain your status. So that also, however you are covering those gaps, and it's also working and building your resume. And yes, if you are in Kenya and you're applying for a master's program, sometimes, I'm sorry, Yebei, sometimes you just have to put aside passion, because but either you put aside the passion or figure out how do you answer. You might be in your interview for your visa, you have to figure out what program is going to work and getting you a visa, because you don't want to be advised by the interviewer. You don't need to go to the US for that. It's right here in Kenya. So that's not why I came into counseling way back. But back then we didn't really have, our university were not training counselors. So for me, that wasn't an issue. So those are also things to think about. And even as we are moving to grad school, also remember to always, Dr. Ndombere already talked about that, being an international student, always be a step ahead and make sure that all your documentation is valid as you've got a lot of pieces to keep going as you're working on going to your grad school. And also, if you're applying for your visa to come to graduate school here, they are also going to look and you're going to explain any gaps that might be there. And also, if your graduate school, whether it's a master's or a PhD, depending on your program, you're going to be interviewed, and that one, they may not mention or say anything or tell you that's why you didn't make the cut, but they look at that. And also, the other thing, I just want to caution you, please don't lie. And even if you're embellishing your vita or your resume, because you're putting yourself in the best light, sometimes do not make lies that are so obvious. And sometimes you don't even know who is interviewing you or who's looking at your document. Many a time, I've always found people who, I was interviewing for a job in Kenya in 2015. And then in Kenya, in Lemuru, deep in Kikuyu land, then somebody who is in the committee is somebody who grew up in the Iowa. What are the odds that in Kikuyu I'm finding some Muzungu there who grew up in Iowa and Michigan? So if I had them, or somebody, Masharia, you're in the UK, somebody came to interview. After now, I did get hired. And so the next time we're interviewing somebody to join us, somebody says they were in a university in the UK. They didn't know that Dr. Wamoyo, at some point, she was the principal of Loreto Lemuru, that she had gone to that school. So she starts talking about the dean, so and so, and so and so. The person had written that on their Vita. So they failed themselves by doing that. So those are just some of the many tips that are out there as you make decisions and you are going to grad school. Some reasons why you don't get a response sometimes, Sir Joshua, but a lot of the times, even if you don't make the cut, it's institutions usually respond, even if it's to tell you that you did, even if it's a one-liner under regret.
Charles, Charles Oponda, Charles, are you here? Can you say something? I know I'm just picking on you. Charles.
Yes, Prof. I'm here.
Can you share your experience with the is it GRE or GED? I think it's very helpful. Charles,
I think it's GRE, not GED.
Sorry, my bad, senior mom, and I just got home. I'm tired. I'm sorry. It's not GED. So yes. Charles is a PhD. Charles, introduce yourself.
Yes, Prof. Thank you so much for reaching out. Actually, I was here listening, but I've got some cough here that's really disturbing me. So nonetheless, let me just say that my name is Charles Opondo. I'm from Kenya. I'm a PhD student in epidemiology with a minor in data science here at IU. And this is my second semester. Just joined the other day.
The IU School of Public Health.
Yes, IU School of Public Health. Yes, so you wanted me to talk briefly about my GRE experience?
Yes, please.
Wow, it was very painful. It was very painful. Yeah, so what I did while back in Kenya, I applied for a GRE, paid some 40,000 Kenyan shilling, because then it was a requirement for me to join Indiana. I had to do a GRE. It was before COVID. So I paid 40,000. That is 30,000 for registration fee, and then 10,000 for training. Via Zoom, So I did that for 2 weeks, and then the D-Day came to do exams. So I just failed on the computer while seeing that I'm failing. I just failed there, right there. I didn't do well in GRE. So I almost gave up and almost concluded not to send this application of GRE to Indiana. But then something else told me, look, just send it. So I sent it and then gave up about coming to Indiana. I actually just gave up at all and started focusing on other things. I forgot about my PhD. Little did I know that after some 6 months down the line, will I receive an email about congratulations. You have been admitted at Indiana University. So whereas my focus was in GRE that had failed, there are other applications. Some documents in my application that had more strength. The statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, my research proposal, what I did and published sometimes back when I was doing my master's degree. And also my grades were also good. So what I want to say is that is if you don't give up, and it's not most of the universities in US, especially in Indiana, they don't just focus on GRE alone. There are other things that they focus on. So GRE is just, I think it's just maybe sort of a formality sometimes. But then if you do well in the other applications, in other areas, they might decide to be considerate on you and keep GRE aside and still admit you. Yes, Prof. So that was my experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate it. I wanted him to share that, to say you're not going to be perfect in everything. There are some things that you have no control, but things that you have control over is writing a good statement, getting good recommendations, you know, doing your best, like building, going to conferences, presenting, publishing, you know, there are things that you can do that will make you stand out. So don't give up.
I want to offer a resource, piggybacking on what Charles has talked about and GRE, and I will pass it on to Sylvester later. The link, I don't have it right now to put on the chat. At the US Embassy in Gigiri, in their library, they have their Education Advisory Center. Because Charles talked of, I don't know where you booked your the people you are preparing with, but those are some of the services you join, you become a member or not a member, and they prepare you very, very well. And at the end of it, they give you a letter to go with to the embassy, and 99% of the people who go through the center will get a visa. So you have to work very hard to be part of the 0.5% who don't get a visa. So it is free. And this for, especially for undergraduates, they work with you and make sure you don't even go to apply for a visa without funding, without scholarships. And we know that is very, very difficult when you're an undergraduate. For graduates, the best, because I prepared through them way back. And Charles, as you're talking about, you're preparing for GRE, I felt, and the other thing I'll say, for some of these standardized testing, SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, and whichever others the programs are needing, if you're in Kenya, these I'm addressing to the people who are coming to grad school, even if your program does not require it, it's always good to do it, because some of the interviewers at the embassy, that's one of the ways they check whether you are a bona fide student, whether you are putting in what it takes. So if you don't do it, then get a waiver from, for example, if it's at the University of Northern Iowa, and the last I checked, the counseling program were not asking for GRE. But if you're coming from Kenya, and at the embassy, you just never know with the interviewer that's interviewing you. So do it anyway, or have the university that you're going to have a written waiver that they have waived whatever, that they have waived GRE for you. So that is a good resource to use, and it is free, and they have monthly meetings to prepare you and even continue answering, especially the funding part. They work with you until you get funding. But for Wangui, I was impatient. So once I got admitted, I decided I'm going to figure it out once I get there. I'm not going to wait for them to help me get funding. So I'll share that with Sylvester, the link to the center, to share with everybody on the WhatsApp, because it's a good resource and it's legit, especially when we have a lot of agencies in Nairobi. Sometimes they're preparing for GRE. Some of them don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I can also add something on GRE, particularly GRE subjects. So for example, if you are joining STEM, I do know obviously there are, for example, GRE chemistry, GRE physics, and so on and so forth. Whereas they may not even be required sometimes, is a very good preparatory training if you are joining grad school. So you don't want to be hit, with a surprise of the kind of content you are going to grapple with in grad school. So I would also advise, those GRE subjects, other than GRE general, are also important in trying to prepare you for grad school. Never mind the kind of score you'll get. Obviously, Opondo did indicate that, he got a low score maybe in GRE general. It doesn't really matter. So I would also advise for us to take GRE subjects, particularly if you are trying to join STEM. And quite frankly, that score can also be important in competing with other candidates in as far as scholarships and other kind of assistantships are concerned. So take GRE subject as well. Even if you get a low score, it prepares you for the kind of content you are going to meet. And for example, for me, when I joined Wayne State, the first thing we did was a proficiency exam in chemistry. And I can tell you, for those people who are not taking GRE subject, they scored very low. They are not going to send you out of grad school, but there is that kind of feeling like, am I going to make it? Particularly when you score very low in your proficiency exams, which was the very first thing we did. I do know it differs from school to school, but the school I went to, that was the very first thing we did at the first day of class. We all sat for a proficiency exam, and it mirrored pretty much what was done in the GRE subjects. So that's my addition on this. Thank you.
Yeah. Nancy. Nancy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm looking at the time. I'm really happy about the discussion that's going on and for everyone that's come and all the resourceful information we've had. So I don't know how long we are going to take, but I wanted to add one more thing to the GRE. Most schools that give graduate assistantship need GRE just because you're going to either teach or do research. So they need to understand that you can't speak well to the undergraduate that you're going to teach. So that is the case in my school. Even if you apply for you will get the program, but without GRE, you don't get the graduate assistantship. So just confirm with your graduate coordinators before, and yes, at least you've given people resources to prepare. Most of us didn't have enough resources, but if you need at least 3 months to prepare and get good grades. That's all I can add.
Any other questions before we close? It's been almost 2 hours. Okay.
James wanted to speak.
Sure. James, uko wapi? Oh, good. That's Gilbert, Mr. President. James, uko wapi? Tunakungojea.
Inakataa ku-unmute.
Are you able to unmute? I tried. Professor Jerono, can you help him unmute?
Who is James? Raise your hand.
James iPhone.
Oh,
Yeah.
James iPhone.
Are you from Kenya? Is he calling from Kenya?
He graduated from Youngstown and is currently on OPT. So I don't know what he wanted to talk about or ask.
Tell him to type. You can type it on there. Gilbert, were you able to unmute him? James iPhone.
No, I can't unmute him.
Okay, let me see if I can. Oh. Ask to unmute. How comes I can't unmute him? Okay, I can't. Okay.
We have another question on publishing. Any ideas on publishing undergraduate works?
So what you can do with that is, because I actually published my first paper as an undergrad student at Kenyatta University on dance therapy. So work with your professors. So the key thing is again, when you get that opportunity, ask your professor, see if you can assist them, and you can publish together. So that's always the best way to start, is publish with a professor, or you can also publish by yourself. You can actually publish literature review. You can do a literature review that is publishable. And you come to KESID and we'll share more ideas. Come to KESID, we'll connect you, come present. So what I was told is, when I was in school, is every presentation you make, and I didn't do a good job in that, by the way. Every presentation you make, that should be, make sure you publish before you go and present the next one.
Yeah, Professor Jerono, I just wanted to add, yeah, I actually published a review paper while I was in grad school, all by myself.
Good.
And the professor was really pretty much surprised as much as he was happy as well. So you can do that, publishing all by yourself. I also do remember, I actually wrote a storybook that I sell on Amazon that is totally unrelated to science while I was in grad school. And I sell that book, I think, for $10 or so. So that was a publication totally outside my science area. So these are some of the things you can actually do. You don't have to be tied to your professor. That's what some people believe, which is quite fallacious. You're actually free as far as I'm concerned. Once you did graduate with a first degree, you can actually publish all by yourself if you so wish to do so.
You are so right. And KESID, right here, we have a journal that you can publish. I think last year we published with, we did a co-author publication on COVID with 2 grad students and I think 2 undergraduates. So yes, start with KESID. We have a KESID Kenya Studies Review.
And I can see the next KESID topic loading, talking about scholaring and publishing. And then the other one, which has always been a dream, as soon as I landed here, an endowment fund, especially to do funding, and also for those who don't make it or whatever breaks, and also related to presentation of statements when people are going to the embassy. So those are topics that I see loading.
All right, Gilbert, you want to say something? And all the other students, how many we have our student leaders we have? Gilbert, go ahead and introduce your team.
Thank you.
Nancy, yeah.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry I had challenges trying to connect. Yeah, Gilbert, this is James.
Hey, James, welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I came late. I was unable to join in time because I was working by the time you started the meeting.
Okay.
I happened to be in the Pacific daytime. So I was in Youngstown, like Nancy mentioned. Then after Youngstown, I went for OPT. After OPT, I applied for the EB2 National Interest Waiver. Yeah, so I was like, any students out there that have done their master's or PhD and they would like to get this green card on national interest waiver, it's easier because you just need to prove that you are a person of national interest. You prove to the USCIS that you are a person of exceptional ability. Yeah, there's so much that you can read out there. You can use a lawyer or you can do self-petitioning. In my case, I used my master's degree in chemistry to argue my case, and my petition went through. It took me 1 year. I got the information from watching a lot of YouTube channels on EB2 National Interest Waiver. I also read a lot on Google. Yeah, and then consulted people that did this before. And that's how I got my green card, just with a master's, and I was able to, get the papers. Yeah, so what I would like, my simple advice is it's possible. So let's go for it. if you want to go for PhD and you have a master's degree, I would advise you to give it a trial, because you get more settled with papers, unlike otherwise. Yeah, any question on that before I stop there?
Is this the James, my James from KESID?
Yes. This is your James.
My
I still remember the support during COVID.
Yes, great. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm working on this side of San Francisco, so everybody is welcome to come to the Bay Area. I'm here. I'm one of you.
Yeah, we are coming to San Francisco, James.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do. Yes, any question on EB2 national interest waiver?
I think, James, as we agreed, we just do a monthly meeting on this, because from where I stand now, any international student, you don't need to be worried when you're in the US. Just do, when you're finishing your master's or when you're joining your PhD, just apply for EB2, national waiver, please. If you don't know the process, reach out. We have several of us who have done it here, and people are not just disclosing, which I think is not a good thing. If you've done it and you've managed, the best thing is to share with others so that they also get to benefit. The visas are open. The visa in that route, they are open. They are current. We don't have many people competing for that pool. So it's easy. If you don't know how to do it, ask. If you've finished your PhD, even if you finished your undergrad and you're proving that you are going to advance. I've finished my undergrad, I've applied into my graduate studies. This is the admission when I was in undergrad. The same way Professor has just been saying, when you've done something, be able to demonstrate that you have done it in writing and you're willing to advance. Your visa will be approved. Most probably, I can't say certainly, but most probably it will be approved. So many of us will lag behind because we don't have information. We are not available for this information. I don't think it's right for us to be here. We are not getting these visas while students from Asia and China, they just come here 1 year down here and they have applied. By the time they're finishing their master, their visas have approved. And then we end up suffering after we graduate. Why should we suffer when there is an easy route? Why should you be looking for other orthodox means to get papers when you can get papers fast in a right way? More so, any student who is in PhD, I will tell you, start tomorrow. Because when other countries will know that this is current and it's open, you'll be sure it will be limited. Because now, those in economics, you know very well, now unemployment is so low because we are almost, people are preparing for recess if it will happen. So they need people. So let's apply. Where you're stuck, ask. I'm sure you come to KESID, you ask, I'll look for someone who has applied and they will walk you through the process. Because the reason I say so, I've seen people who joked around with the idea, let me just apply to see what will happen. Boop, after 4 months, their visa is approved. 2 weeks down the line, they receive their card. As James has said, you are settled when you know very well you have papers. But when you don't have papers, you're always worried. What next? Where am I going next? I'm finishing my master's. What next? I'm finishing my PhD. What next? So we don't want to be in that quagmire if we can have a route that is easy for us to take. So we'll do a session on this, James, as I promised you, and at least we'll find several people who have done it who can come and share with others on the best way to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw somebody asking about publications. Publications is not the only factor. I self did not publish, but I had my thesis uploaded in Google Scholar, sorry. Yeah, so you need not have published. There are several other ways of proving your case. So these petitions are normally handled on a case-by-case basis. And like I said, all of us are qualified. It only depends on how you put your case forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
Mhm.
Nancy, you can. I'm not sure who are present today, but I can sure Sylvester was here. He's held up somewhere. Thank you, Nancy, for hosting us today. Thank you for all our mentors who found time. I know it's out of your busy schedule. It's not easy for you to get these 2 hours to be with us. We always say thank you to all the students who find time to attend this meeting. It's not in vain. You get to learn what you didn't know yesterday. Count it a blessing that this information comes to us free of charge. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming in. It's been 2 hours now. We didn't feel how those hours went. So thank you for all the information we've had. We are looking forward to the session on NIW. I'm also interested. So yeah, we'll definitely have that session. And we'll have one with Professor Gathua also. And yeah, there's more to come. Just remember that we have meetings every 4th week of the month. So be waiting, be on the lookout, invite your friends. And I hand over the meeting to Gilbert or Professor Jerono. Have a good night.
Thank you. I think Professor Jerono can finish it up for us.
Well, we just want to say thank you, everyone. We really appreciate Dr. Dr. Yebei, Dr. Ndombere. We do not take it for granted that you woke up at 3 a.m. How many joined from Kenya? Just, I think we have several from Kenya. But thank you, everybody, and you have a wonderful time. Like we said, we will see you again in March, the 4th Thursday of the month. Do we have a volunteer to close us out with a word of prayer?
I'll pray. All right, we're praying. Heavenly Father in heaven, I thank you once again this evening, this night, that you've connected us. Thank you for the technology. Thank you for what has been shared. We pray that the opportunities that we share here will be of great importance to many. Be with us until we meet next time. In Jesus' name I do pray and believe. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. Good night, and we'll see you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.